What's up, Purdue fans? Welcome to another episode of Boiler Banter. I am Brandon Brown, joined as always by Dustin Schutte. This week we're doing something just a little bit different. I personally like stuff like this. I used to host a Michigan podcast for a long time. My former colleague and I would always come up with questions for the other person that we had no idea about until we hit the record button. So look, I'm putting Dustin on the spot a little bit out there. So all you Purdue fans, you're going to find out real quick just how good Dustin is at his job. I'm setting him up for success here, not for failure. Dustin, how concerned are you about the questions I'm about to throw? I got a six pack of questions, three basketball, three football. How are you feeling about that?
I think I feel. I don't know. I feel okay about it. I will admit that I'm a little bit more nervous about the football questions than I am the basketball ones.
Okay, that's fair. And I little disclaimer: I am recording from a camper in my parents' driveway, and the internet is not awesome. And I just saw a little tweak out on Dustin. It was probably because of my internet, but we lost Dustin for a second. Hopefully, we don't have any technical difficulties. If we do, we'll adjust on the fly. We'll make it work. We'll figure something out. But I'm excited to go through these questions. These are kind of, I think they're questions that Purdue fans are curious about, but also I'm curious about just in stuff that we've talked about over the last couple of months as we've been doing these episodes. It's stuff that's come up here and there, and I'm just kind of curious to see what you think about Purdue in the 2025, basically in the 2025 calendar year. So if you are ready, sir, we will start with basketball. Are you ready to roll?
Let's do it.
Number one, will Braden Smith follow in Zach Edey's footsteps and win Big Ten Player of the Year for the second year in a row?
Yes. I don't. Now here's the caveat to that, Brandon. But I don't know. We'll see who all is added through the transfer portal. Obviously, with 18 teams, it's always hard to pick a favorite or, say with a lot of certainty that one player will win it back-to-back years. But I think the biggest competition to Braden Smith is his teammate and Trey Kaufman-Renn. So that I could very easily see a situation. So I feel confident that Braden's probably going to win it because he's improved every single year. He's becoming more aggressive as a shooter, especially as his team needs it. He's been a really good passer since he stepped on campus, but he's like honed that skill to perfection. And so I assume with Oscar Clough coming in, maybe you get another transfer or two from the portal with the shooters he's going to have around him. Fletcher Lawyer, who gets better every single season. Trey Kaufman-Renn, another year with kind of that in that short roll type of situation. Those numbers could exceed 9. Like he could average more than 9 assists per game. I think he could have over 1,000 for his career. It's really hard to see anybody dethroning that. And unless there's another player that I think he will win National Player of the Year. So you're talking about a guy who could win. Purdue could have a third National Player of the Year. Let me win it a third time in 4 seasons because there's only been 2. Edey won it twice, and then Braden Smith. So I think he will, but I do think the caveat I throw in there is I think it's a lock that Purdue's going to get it. It's just a matter of can Kaufman-Renn make enough of an improvement to where maybe he's the Big Ten Player of the Year and beats out his teammate for that award. That's going to be the interesting aspect of that to me.
That is interesting, and it kind of speaks to just what the expectations are going to be heading into next season for Purdue. A little bit of a caveat too, and correct me if I'm wrong. Neither of them have officially made their final decision. Correct? There's still a shot that Braden Smith goes to the NBA, maybe Trey Kaufman-Renn as well. But I think the popular opinion is that they'll be back, right?
Yeah, I think there were a lot of rumors and speculation that he might enter the transfer portal. I think at this stage we can probably put a pin in that. I think that's out the window at this point. I do think you're correct, though. I still think he and Trey Kaufman-Renn, maybe Fletcher, I don't know, because there's no downside to declaring for the NBA draft,
Right.
getting an evaluation and then coming back. But yes, the latest draft stock I saw, and we may have touched on this in the last podcast, he was somewhere in the 58, late second round. So if that's his draft grade, he will absolutely come back to Purdue for his senior season.
Well, there you go. You actually mentioned The subject of question number 2, Oscar Clough transferred into Purdue, expected to have a pretty big role. That's something we talked about last episode as well. How does he fit in with? Is it Jacobson? I think that's the
Yep,
last name,
yep,
correct?
yep.
The big fellow who was hurt all this past season. So, do you play the two bigs? How different are they? Will they fit together? But this question is specifically about Oscar Clough. For his career, he is averaging 11.9 points, 8 rebounds, and 1.9 assists per game. Pretty solid numbers. And at a place like Purdue with shooters around and other. It's interesting when you think about transfer players when they come from a lesser place. It's like, do they get elevated because there's so much better talent around them, or do they drop because there's better talent on the other teams around them? So you,
Yeah.
you kind of wonder how that will go. So my question: 11.9 points, 8.0 rebounds per game, 1.9 assists per game. What do those numbers look like at Purdue next year for Oscar Clough?
Man, see, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
I would
see, I
say,
like it on the spot.
yeah, yeah, got to make me think about that. So I think I, I'm off the top of my head, like my initial thought is 8 and 6. If you
Mhm.
can get 8.6 rebounds a game from him, I think you're in a really good spot because again, he's going to be sharing the court with Trey Kaufman-Renn, Daniel Jacobson. Like I don't think there's any way Daniel Jacobson is not on the floor for a significant number of minutes this season. Like he was to me again, and this was a 1 game sample size against a mid-major opponent in the first game of the season. But 13 points, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks, played like a veteran down the stretch of that game. Like he looked now, what it would have looked like against Big Ten teams or Marquette or Texas A&M or Alabama, I don't know. But to me, there's no doubt that kid was ready to play. And even though he's sustained an injury, he looks like he's put on some muscle. He looks like he kind of came in looking like a high school player. And now I think he looks more like a college ready player. So I think that you're going to see those two guys split a lot of time. So to me, his biggest contribution to me is going to be on the glass. Like, can he come in and get 6 to 7 rebounds per game? So I think he's going to be below his average because I don't think he's going to get like 30 minutes per game. I think he's probably going to be somewhere between 18 and 22. And then the rest of that's probably going to go to Daniel Jacobson. That's just my first opinion. So if you can get 8 and 6 on an average from him, the occasional double, I think Purdue's in really, really good shape because they just didn't have that. Caleb first did some really good things for him last year, but I think he was in like the 4 points, 3.5 rebounds per game category. Will Berg just didn't play a whole lot except for down the stretch, gave him some good minutes. So I'm going to say below the average, but he'll produce what Purdue needs, which is in that 8 to 10 points, 5 to 7 rebounds per game.
There you have it. And to put a bow on our 3-pack of basketball questions, I believe it was January we look back when Purdue kind of hit a little bit of a skid. Maybe it was February. I don't know. We could reflect on the season and how they didn't have more than a 2-game losing streak until that point, and then they did hit a bit of a skid. They kind of fell off the top of the Big Ten standings a little bit after pick to win the Big Ten. Finished the season with a 24-12 record. So the question is, will they have a better record than 24-12 in the 2025 season?
Yeah, the old caveat, like, of course, if they stay healthy, right? Like that's got to be thrown in there. I think yes. I think this team is probably going to push 30 wins again. I'm not saying they're going to go 34-5 like they did in the 23-24 season when they reached the national championship game, but I think that type of success is attainable. Now, the thing is obviously Purdue always schedules tough. They're going to have another tough non-conference game. I think they play Alabama and Birmingham. I think Auburn is the Indy Classic. I believe that Marquette's on the schedule as part of a home and home. There might be another team that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But I think that this team is going to blow that total out of the water. Again, with 18 teams and the way we saw kind of Michigan State emerge, Indiana's under new leadership. Iowa's got a new head coach and some new players there. Dusty May's kind of rebuilding his roster. I don't know that I want to pen them in as the definite Big Ten champions because a lot of things can happen over the course of a regular season. But I think that this team will push. It's going to be at the top, and I think they're going to push 30 wins. So I think they're going to blow the 24-12 record out of the water. I think that's an easy. If the over under was set at 24.5, I would hammer the over on that.
Hammer the over. Let me ask you it this way then. I guess same kind of question, but just a little different wording. If they go if they win 26 games, would that be a disappointment? Would that be not a failure, because it always depends
Yeah.
on what you do in the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament, obviously. But if they finish the regular season with 25 or 26 wins, just a notch above this past season, is that a bummer?
Yeah, I think that's hard to quantify just because you don't know exactly where teams like I said, in the non-conference, you don't know where Auburn, Marquette, Alabama is going to stack up. You don't know what you're looking at in terms of Indiana, Michigan, Michigan State, Wisconsin, a lot of those teams that were at the top of the Big Ten. I would like to think, though, that probably that's going to be, if they're not in, look, the way that Purdue operates, if they don't win the Big Ten, it's going to be a disappointing season. Right. And so I think that they're going to win. I'm just a little hesitant to say for sure that they're going to. I think they're going to be the favorite again, like they were last season. Yeah, 24-12. You got to think about where those losses came from. Obviously, so they would have been 10 losses in the regular season because they would have one in the conference tournament one. Yeah, I think so. I think you're probably talking about that maybe being a little bit of a disappointing season. But again, in terms of where does the regular season end? Is that 26-5 if they play 31 games? You know what? No, I'm not going to call that a disappointment. If you go 26-5 in the regular season, I had to think about my math there. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. If it's an overall win total, including the tournaments, then I think you're probably disappointed because that means you didn't make it very far, probably. But if you finish the regular season 26 wins, I think you feel really good about that. So
there you go.
Talked out of both sides of my mouth there because I had to do math on the. You told me there wouldn't be no math, Brandon.
Yeah, I did say it shouldn't be anything you have to really figure out. It was more just opinion based, but I did, I guess, throw you a little bit of a numbers question there. So, all right. So basically, Purdue's going to be good, win games, and people will be happy. That's pretty easy to explain it there. All right.
Yeah.
So let's shift over to football a little bit. It's a slightly different kind of discussion on the gridiron than it is on the hardwood, and that's just the way it is. You talk about a new coach, you talk about a brand new regime, trying to figure a lot of stuff out. The Big Ten is really good at the top and not bad even in the middle. You talk about the bottom a little bit being not so strong, but that's kind of where we're at with Purdue. And you look at the 24 season and you try to take some steps forward with a first-year head coach, and that's probably the best you can hope for. So let's talk about that a little bit. Man, what a different kind of question than the ones I just threw at you. And I hope Purdue fans aren't like, this is where they shut it off. Stick around. Dustin will give you some good stuff too, I promise here.
Yeah.
Will Purdue win a Big Ten game in 2025? And I'll throw all the teams out real quick. I have the schedule right in front of me. Home against USC, home against Illinois, at Minnesota, at Northwestern, home against Rutgers, at Michigan, home against Ohio State, at Washington, home against Indiana. I know that's 10 teams I just threw out there, but will they win a conference game in 2025? Because they did not last year.
No, they did not. And yes, I think they will. I actually have the schedule brought up in front of me too, because I figured there was going to be some sort of schedule-based question in here. Yeah, I think they will. And I think they're going to win a couple. And like I said, I've said this from the beginning. Like when you look at the schedule, having to play USC, Notre Dame, Illinois was a 10-win team a year ago. Rutgers, even when they're not very good, they're pesky. Like they're basically, to me, they're like the new Northwestern, right? Northwestern they'd have the year where they win 8 to 10 games in the Big Ten West. It's just like nobody wants to play them, even though some years they may not be very good. When they're when they had 4 or 5 wins, they could still figure out ways to give good teams a run for their money. So I think that this Purdue team is probably going to win. If I had to put a number to it, I'd say maybe 3 Big Ten games. I feel pretty good about that number.
All right.
But I wouldn't be surprised with 4. If you can get to 5 and 7 this year, I think that's really good. And so yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are going to look at that first Big Ten game at home against USC and kind of put that as the gauge as to where the season goes. If they're competitive in that game, then there's a positive outlook. Don't necessarily have to win. But if you can be competitive in that game, I think you feel pretty good. If it's a situation where they get beat by 20 again, like they did last year, Notre Dame just stole the spirit of Purdue's football season basically in week 2 or week 3, whatever game that was played. So I like Purdue's chances against Northwestern. I like their chances at home against Rutgers. I think they have a good chance against Washington. I think they have a good chance against Minnesota. Illinois is going to be interesting. That game's at home. But again, as I said, Illinois was a 10-win team a year ago. So yeah, I think Purdue, I'd be nervous at a 3.5 Big Ten win line as whether to go under or over that. But I think they'll get to 3 Big Ten wins this year at least.
All right, let's move on to number 2. Purdue gave up at least 50 points 4 times last year. Will it happen once in 2025? You got to go to South Bend, and that was one of the bombs that got dropped on them last year.
Yep.
Will it happen again in 2025? Will you see a 50 burger hung on the Boilermakers at least? It was 60 twice by Notre Dame. Notre Dame and Indiana hung 60 plus on them. So there you go.
Yeah, this is a stark contrast from the basketball conversation.
Yeah. As I was putting them together, I'm like, wow, where do I go here? But wanted to get a little bit of that out there in the spirit of spring football going on, at least wrapping up for Purdue. Yeah.
My hunch is no. I don't think they're going to give up 50
It's a lot of points.
It is a lot of points. And even though, you get the benefit, Michigan, I think even with Bryce Underwood, assuming he's going to be the starter, I think Michigan is going to still focus on the run. So even if you get some of these games, even if you get pummeled, this is a worst case scenario. And I should throw this caveat out there. I think Purdue's going to be very competitive in most of their games this season. I think Barry Odom gets it. I think he understands Purdue. I don't know where they stack up in terms of talent at the top tier of the Big Ten. They're probably still a ways away from that. But I just think that Jeff Brom got some of those teams to really fight tooth and nail in some of those games. They would have the occasional dud, or they might get blown out here or there. But for the most part, they were pretty competitive throughout his tenure. And I think Barry Odom is kind of cut from that same cloth where teams are just going to fight. And so I think that even if Purdue loses a big game, I think you can still walk away from a 21-point loss in some of these circumstances and say, you know what, it was a bad loss, but we saw some good things. So for that reason, I don't think they're going to give up 50 points this season. The most likely candidates would be probably USC, and not based on last season, just because of the fact that they have the ability to score a lot of points, usually with Lincoln Riley's offense. Notre Dame, because they did it last year, right? And then I'm looking at Ohio State because of that high octane. To me, if they don't, Ohio State's the number one candidate to put up 50 points or more. So I don't think it's going to happen. You may see opponents break 40 a couple times. I think that's totally plausible, but I'm going to say no. I'm going to say 0 times anybody puts up 50 points on the Boilermakers this year.
All right. And last but not least, and I don't think it's all that possible, but man, it's a new coach. You don't really know exactly what to expect. And when you go through the schedule from last year, 1-11, and the way they lost some of those games, it's got to be pretty disheartening as a Purdue fan. So heading into the season, I don't know where the hopes are. I don't know if they're very high. Certainly there's a little bit of energy with the new coaching staff and just some being hopeful and God, I hope this works out type of thing. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I'll be the bad guy for these 3 questions that I just asked.
All right.
But number 3, just please fill in this blank. If Purdue loses the season opener against Ball State, it's just a noise.
Yeah. It is just a noise. Yeah. Fill in the blank. If they lose the season
opener, I guess it would be finish the statement. If Purdue loses the season opener against Ball State.
Oh man. You're looking at 2 wins max probably.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Because you could probably still beat Southern Illinois and maybe you get another win. So you hope that either Northwestern, Rutgers, or somebody else on your schedule is really bad. I don't think that's going to be the case.
Just for the record, Ball State was not a very good MAC team last year. They only won 3 games, I think maybe 3 or 4 games total. So I would expect Purdue to be favored in that one by maybe double digits, but still, you got to play them.
Yeah, you do. And years ago, I think this was 2003. This is kind of testing my Purdue knowledge. I think it was the 2003 season where Purdue entered with a lot of hype and anticipation. and they got beat week 1 by Urban Meyer's Bowling Green team. So not out of the realm of possibility. Ball State has a new coach too, don't they? I think they went through a coaching change in the offseason. Oh, see, now I got you. Now
Keep talking,
you off the
Yep.
I think Ball State has a new coach. Now that doesn't mean like Purdue's got to beat Ball State. They can't lose that game. So if they lose that, then all of a sudden expectations and hype and everything that gets tempered pretty quickly. Because you look at the schedule, you probably look at Southern Illinois as a win, but I don't know who else you'd be able to beat if you can't beat Ball State in week 1. So we'll see what happens. I would not anticipate that happening. I think Purdue probably starts the season 2-0. And
interesting nugget here, Dustin. Ball State's head coach is Mike Uremovich. It's his first year as the head coach at Ball State. His alma mater is Purdue, folks.
How did I not know that?
Is Purdue. So
wow.
Yeah, he's coming from some small, he's coached at Butler. He was in a full-time capacity at Northern Illinois, not as the head coach, but yeah, so this is a guy kind of climbing the ladder, so to speak, right now, but he's been coaching for more than 25 years in various roles.
Okay, so we're recording this on Monday morning, so let's just throw that out there. So everybody that's watching this, give us some grace here. But do you know how I should have known this? Is right. One of my really good friends from high school, his brother is on the Ball State staff. He was on the Butler staff and went over with the new staff to Ball State. So I don't know what I was thinking. I should have known that. Yes, that was 100% that
somewhere in the back, back of the brain, that one was living. Okay.
Yeah, that they had a new staff. So anyway, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Purdue's going to win that game, and you're not going to have any situation. But if they did lose, I mean, Ross State might be pretty empty because you can't come off a 1-11 season as much hype as you have around a new coach. But again, like go back to the Joe Tiller era. His very first game, was it his very first game? Boy, this is a lot. People are going to question my Purdue authenticity and knowledge here. Like,
look, you went back 22 years for the last one. It's a good chunk of time.
But I think 1997, his first game, Purdue lost to Toledo, so another MAC team, and then they turned around and beat Notre Dame the following weekend, a ranked Notre Dame team. So, like, it's happened before, but in this era of college football. Like in a microwave society, all hell will break loose if they lose that opener to Ball State.
Hey, I'm not sure how to spell it, but as I'm filling in the blank, if Purdue loses the season opener against Ball State, that was the answer, and that says a lot. But yeah, I mean, look, I do realize as we're going through this, it's a long ways off for football stuff, and we try to do basketball stuff. I mean, it's April, and we're doing like Big Ten champion type stuff, Player of the Year stuff. A lot can happen. There's always that, but it's fun to talk about. I mean, we just did 23 minutes when we had nothing to talk about, so I think that's pretty good, right?
Yeah, I think you came up with some good questions, so we were able to elaborate, and we're able to squeeze the juice out of the lemon.
There you go. So he is Dustin Schutte. He's an expert. Look, everything he just said, write it down, take it to the bank, and you'll be very happy in 6, 8, 10 months, whatever it is. No, really appreciate Austin taking some tough questions again. We're 8 months away or 6, 7 months away from basketball. 5 months away from football still, but Dustin took on some tough questions there and gave us some really good info. So there you go, Purdue fans. He's Dustin Schutte. I'm Brandon Brown. We will talk to you again next week.